Hi everyone, it's Tony Seymour from the Art of Brilliance. It's great to see you again. So it's the West Midlands Social Work Teaching Partnership. How are you, partners? I hope you enjoyed looking at the last session about being brilliant and learning a few things there. Did anybody do any homework? Which is, do you remember what I asked you to do? I asked you to record at least 3 things that we were going to stop doing. And to be the best version of you, 2%er, 3 things that you're going to start doing. I do hope you did that. Even if it was for a personal exercise, if you wanted to share it with me, I ask you to email me at the address that you can see on the screen. So hopefully you'll do that and I can get you a t-shirt if I consider it to be absolutely awesome what you've decided to do. So today, what we're going to talk about today is of interest to you, I hope. This is the new normal, isn't it? It's a world of abnormality. It's unusual. And that's why this session is called Business as Unusual. So what were you thinking when you saw that title? Business as Unusual. So true, isn't it? We want to get back to normality, but normality as we know it, or as we knew it, doesn't appear to be on the horizon anytime soon, does it? So we're living in a very strange world. And this short session is all about you learning to be your best self and how that can improve over time with mental exercise. We all need to give attention to that muscle between our ears. Give it attention, exercise it, work it out. Then we can cope with the unusual situation that we're in, and we can cope with what's coming our way. What is coming our way? Constant change. We're never quite sure where we're going to be this time next week, this time tomorrow, let alone that. When we think about this time next year, doesn't bear thinking about, does it? Where will we be? So change is a constant, and that's what Heraclitus says. So today I really just want to share with you some really, really good tips about being business as unusual, coping with that situation, thriving and moving on as the best version of you. Have you got the new vocabulary in your head yet? This is all kind of phrases. Look at these phrases that we now, wow, never used before, did we? Social distancing. What's that? Track and trace. How about those on the right? Blur's day. All the days seem to merge into one, especially when you work from home. Some people have told me who work from home that that's how they feel. I do sometimes. What day is it? Blur's day. And working in quarantines, is that you? Are you partners stuck at home more than you would like to be? So you feel a bit quarantined, but you're meant to be part of a team. Yes, so unmute, I can't see you, can't hear you. All of those terms are becoming very, very, very familiar to us. It's a new vocabulary, new world. It is unusual. It's now becoming usual. So do you feel negative? Do you feel at times really, really fed up? Do you feel that your happiness and well-being is being eroded? The world is doing its thing. It's throwing it at us. Pandemic pandemonium is what some call it. So some research around negativity and what sort of influences that and feeds it. Here you go. Here's 4 things. Being bombarded with information, constantly battling with what to deal with. The amount of information, you know, that the average American, this was an American study I read about this morning, and they say 100,000 words are bombarded into the average American brain every day. Probably true about most of the Western world, isn't it? In some countries where there is less complexity, they have to deal with a lot less. So whether our brains can cope with it, I'm not sure, but it can actually make us feel a little bit, oh, so much to take in. On top of that, it's wearisome, tiring. Who's not feeling exhausted? Not only physically sometimes from work and mentally from the work that you do, but also just tired of what's going on. It brings us down. Negativity starts to become influencer in our lives. And of course, the uncertainty we've just talked about, the constant change and not quite knowing what is certain, what isn't, can also feed subconsciously into the negative feelings. And finally, of course, we're just bombarded with news and news. When you watch the media and the news, some people have stopped watching it because so many things on there, so tragic and hurtful and sad. It's very rare that they start the news. They start the news with, do you know what, something wonderful's happened. Let's tell you about this project here or how this is developing there. They're usually very, very small snippets. The majority of our news feed is negative and tragic. It's true, of course, most of these things are not fictitious, However, those things can start to influence our feelings of negativity, which can start to grow. And finally, has anybody got IBS? And do you know what? It's not irritable bowel syndrome. I'm not talking about that. This is, I think you know what, irritable something else syndrome. Yeah, there's a few of them around, and some people, no matter what the weather's doing, no matter how beautiful it is, in my home today, it's red hot. It's an August day, it's beautiful weather, and I'm feeling really, really hot. So I could easily be irritable as well. So that kind of stuff can also feed negativity when we've got people around us we live with, we work with, who seem to be constantly irritated. Oh dear. So business as unusual. What are we going to do today? Well, I hope for a few minutes you're going to enjoy this, because what I'm looking at is three things. One is the 4-minute rule. How about that? 4 minutes of you time. And if we follow that rule every day for 4 minutes, what can we do? What can we accomplish? Where can we go? Secondly, home working tips. Yes, I want to share with you some really, really good tips today to help you to make working from home more effective. You've got to go out and apply them, you've got to do it and try it, and hopefully some of those tips will work for you. And then finally, of course, as I did last time, I'll leave you some homework. So I want you to get outside, step outside for a moment mentally, get some air, it says on this slide. Remind yourself of who you are and who you want to be. And, you know, the way to do that sometimes is just to contemplate where we are in the galaxies and the universe, in the vastness of space. If you look at this image here of the Milky Way galaxy, we live in the Milky Way galaxy. And our solar system at the head of that arrow there is where we live in our planetary solar system. Did you know it takes 100,000 years to travel at the speed of light to cross our galaxy? Isn't that awesome? Isn't that humbling? To make us realize that we're just a speck of dust in this vastness of space, traveling at 186,000 miles a second. That's super fast. It would take all those years to cross our galaxy. Doesn't it suddenly make us feel very, very honored and privileged to be alive in this vastness of space for the brevity of life that we have? And not only that, here's another stat for you. It takes the sun's light 8 minutes approximately to travel the 93 million miles from the sun to the earth. 8 minutes. Isn't that amazing? What an interesting stat. You're probably thinking, where's he going with this? Well, all I want to do is invite you to consider what could happen in half that time, in 4 minutes. The 4-minute rule. This is what I want to share with you today, the 4-minute rule. And if you apply it, it will work. It does work. Try it. Here you go. The 4-minute rule is deciding things over 4 minutes with mental concentration that can change our day from just being average to being extraordinary. Are you ready? Are you all set? Feel free to pause as we go through these 4 minutes. What I want you to do for the first minute of every day is like when you're ready to start work at home or whatever you've got to do, prepare your mind for the day. So in other words, exercise the mind, just like you would do a quick workout in the morning. Perhaps some of you do some bending or stretching, others take a little walk or walk the dog or whatever it is you do to stretch yourself physically. Why not do this mentally? So for the first minute, what I want you to do is, yes, do you remember from last time? Choose to be your best self. That man, Howard, that we talked about, that Andy met, who said, whatever happens, I have to make a choice, and I make a choice on a daily basis to be my best self. Choose. So in that 60 seconds, just sit down, get yourself a pen and a paper, and decide for yourself, okay, what am I going to decide today? What am I going to bring? What am I going to present with? Like symptoms, you know? When they say doctors often use that expression, don't they? Oh, they presented with these symptoms. So what symptoms will you present with? Your choice. Choose to be your best self. And then after that 60 seconds, if you've decided, do you know, I'm going to be an attitude of positivity today. Let's imagine you decide that. Second minute. Well, now with that positive mindset, second minute, what are you going to do? What are the things that you need to do that day? Now, if you're anything like me, I tend to sort of grab a pen and paper every morning anyway, sometimes when I'm having my breakfast, and I just write down, I need to do this, that, I've got that to do, I need to speak to him or her, I need to have that meeting about so-and-so, and I make those priority lists. And then with my priorities that I want to do that day, I then reprioritize them and decide in what order they need to be. So minute one, choose to be my best self. And as I'm being my best self, these are the things I'm going to be tackling today. And this is the priority. That's the most important. I'll move that up or that down. So get your priorities right in your second minute. Third minute is, here's a good one. What will we be while we're doing? Because remember, first and foremost, we're human beings. So what will be your to-be list? So this is an opportunity in 1 minute to decide, what am I going to be today? Am I going to concentrate on being helpful or kind? Or am I going to communicate well? Am I going to try and be engaging? Am I going to make a positive impact on others? Am I going to be passionate, engaged, enthusiastic, and all those lovely qualities that you know you can bring to the table with the right mindset? So when you've got your list of tasks, how are you going to be as you deliver them? Your to-be list is number 3. And then when we get to number 4, decide what impact will those 3 things have? Because if I've got my attitude right, if I've got my list of things right that I need to do, and I've got them in the right order, and I've also got my list of qualities that I want to bring and present with as I deal with my colleagues, I deal with people on the phone, I deal with my work, my communication, all of those 3 things beforehand will come together to make an impact. And you know, when you make an impact, make sure it's a positive one. When we do, just see what can happen. This film was taken pre-COVID. Enjoy.
Welcome aboard the 7:32 train to Waterloo. Congratulations to all you who made the effort to go to work today on this cold, dark Monday morning, which is officially the most depressing day of the year. So congratulations to you, yeah? Big ups. Nice one. Wicked. Come on, guys, cheer up. It is 5 days to the weekend. Yeah. 5 days, 7 hours, 12 minutes, 2 seconds. Who's counting? Not me. This is the fast service to London Waterloo, so we should get to know each other quite quickly. My name is George. I like swimming, hip-hop music, also like gherkins in my burgers. Little trivia for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Hospital Radio's loss is your game this morning. I'll call Raven. London Waterloo. We are now arriving at Broadstairs. Please note that this station doesn't have a lift, but it does have Broadstairs though. Does anybody want a drive-through?
Thank you. Cheers.
Hands up if you chose between snooze or a shower this morning. 10 green bottles, sit. Why am I the only one singing? To the left, you'll see a park where I like to take my dog. He's called Fetch. Poor thing doesn't know when he's coming or going. This is a customer announcement. Will the man with the yellow lycra please tone it down, as there's a few passengers that aren't fully awake yet. Thank you all for traveling with me, and thank you all for making my morning such a good one. I hope you had a good one too.
So what did you think about that then? Isn't it true that we can have a warm, positive, uplifting impact on others when we've chosen to be our best selves? I think you'd agree that that guy wasn't just selling biscuits, but he was also making a difference to the passengers around him. So happiness, as Mo Gawdat says, is like keeping fit. We do have to work on it. We have to work at it. And it is a workout. Use the 4-minute rule to make a difference to your life on a daily basis. A little bit of mindfulness. If those of you who do enjoy a little bit of meditative mindfulness and reflection, if you're that kind of person, hopefully you'll find that easy to do. For those of you who are not, just make a determined effort to spend a few minutes making those decisions on a daily basis, and you will see the difference. Because there's no doubt that these things start to happen, you will feel those things that you see in that list. You will feel them more and more as your subconscious mind starts to be reprogrammed by the way of thinking, the 2% of thinking, the 2% of mindset. And instead of being trapped a little bit in and restricted within the eggshell, if you like, of comfort, we start to hatch, we start to grow, we become a growth mindset. That's what 2%ers want to do. So business is still unusual though. What's it like working from home for you? Do you struggle with it? Is it easy, hard, challenging, tiring, difficult to balance? Well, let's find out if we can learn something from working from home effectively. Hopefully you're not a pilot.
This is your pilot speaking. My name is Adrian Oberhensli. I'm working from home today.
I don't think so, do you? So what can we learn from Andy Cope in his research about well-being, positivity and positive psychology? He's also a person who has to work from home. So what can we learn from him? Let's find out. So I promised you some top tips about working from home. So it's a great pleasure and an honor, indeed a privilege, to have my great colleague and friend Andy Cope with us today. Not only Andy Cope, but he's Dr. Andy Cope now. Still call him the Doc, still call him Mr. C. Andy, great to have you with us. The first and only UK's #1 doctor of happiness. It's lovely to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Mate, thanks for inviting me to talk to socially distant social workers, which is an interesting challenge, isn't it?
Massive challenge for these guys in the West Midlands. They're a partnership. They love learning. They also want to be absolutely effective and top notch when it comes to being social workers. That's a massive industry, complex, difficult, challenging. So just got a couple of questions for you to help our audience really watching this. Andy, you know, you spent years, and I've worked along with you. We've known each other 20 years, working in front of audiences, of corporate audiences, schools and all sorts of things, where when you're speaking to people and interacting with them, you really get feedback and you can sense that. Here you are, an author, and who's a guy so used to be in front of people, forced, if you like, to spend a lot of time at home in front of your screen. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm in exactly the same position as everybody listening to this or watching this, is that, well, you called it business as unusual, haven't you? Which is just bonkers, isn't it? And I think that the world has gone mad. But my thing is the world's gone mad, but you don't have to. So I appreciate there's a lot of negativity out there, and I appreciate COVID is terrible, and I appreciate that people might be furloughed or worried, or in fact, if you're a social worker, probably the issue might not be with you, but you're going to be dealing with people on the other end of COVID who are really struggling with this. You're going to be probably dealing with dysfunctional families and stuff. So I think out of all that, what I've learned, mate, over the last 15 years is the only thing I can really take charge of is me. So I can't change the world out there, but I can change my world a little bit. In fact, I kind of give my epiphany moments, right? So it was a thing. I'll give you some top tips on how to work from home, but I'm not sure I know any more than anybody else. But in terms of mental health, or mental wealth, as I call it, is my epiphany moment happened. It was in Tesco's, actually. I think you're supposed to have an epiphany in church. Mine was in Tesco's in Ashby de la Zouch, which is a bit of too much detail there. And it was about 8 years ago. And I was standing in Tesco's and I had this blinding flash of realization, like a laser light realization, that wherever I go, I'm there. Okay. And I know that's obvious, but I'd never really realized at a level that it was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Tesco's in Ashby de la Zouch on a Saturday morning. And then I went through the checkout and I was driving in my car, driving home, going, oh my gosh, I'm in my car driving home. And then I got home to my house and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually at home in my house, putting my groceries away. So my point being, is that I realized with laser-like precision that I can't get away from me. So every single heartbeat that I have for the rest of my life, I'm stuck with me. I'm trapped with me. It's like a life sentence with me. And everybody tuned into this, you're stuck with you. So really where I'm coming from is this, that realization was that if I can't get away from me, then I may as well be trapped with the version of me that I'm proud of. Or a version of me that's got a smile on his face and some energy and a spring in his step, and a version of me that's got some confidence and some energy and some positivity and some optimism and some hope, rather than the version of me from a few years ago. I didn't have a lot of that, mate. I mean, you've known me a long time. I've not always had this going on, yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody watching this, you're trapped with you. So I can't control COVID, and I can't control Donald Trump, and I can't control Brexit, and I can't control lockdown or furlough or the weather or the traffic. So what positive psychology does, and this series of videos that you're doing, is it gives you a little bit more control it gives me more control over me. So what positive psychology does is makes me a slightly better version of me than I was yesterday. And that's the question. So I'm not trying to compare myself with anybody else. I'm trying to say, am I a slightly better Andy than I was yesterday? And if everybody watching this can answer yes to, am I better, a little bit better today than I was yesterday? And you can answer that honestly, yes, consistently, then you're going the right way. But it doesn't make you immune from bad stuff. It doesn't make COVID go away. It doesn't make the traffic disappear. It doesn't make Donald Trump go away. All it does, it puts me in a better place to deal with COVID and the weather and Donald Trump and Brexit. And I think, and therefore, working from home, I would prefer not to be working from home. I'm quite a gregarious person. I like people. I do a keynote speech. There's 1,000 people. It's great. You get the immediate feedback. I'm doing lots of webinars like this one. I'm talking to a little thing in a camera right there. And there's no instant feedback. It's a little bit disconcerting. I'd rather be delivering this in public to people, but I'm not, and I can't. So therefore, the question I say is, well, how would the best version of me deal with this?
Lovely.
Now, right, and the truth is, mate, it's easier not to be the best version of you. You've been speaking about the 4-minute rule, haven't you? Have you done the 4-minute rule?
I've done a 4-minute rule where they've got to contemplate what attitude they're going to bring to the table, how they're going to present, those kind of things.
That is a game changer at work and at home, right? But let me, have you heard the Mel Robbins one, the 5-second rule?
Try that.
5 seconds, right? So 4 minutes is great, right? If you can be your best self for 4 minutes, it leaks out of you and other people will catch it. So I think it's the smallest thing that you can change that have the biggest impact. However, there's Mel Robbins, who's a very famous lady in America. In fact, Google her TED Talk after this. She talks about the 5-second rule. And she says it happened to her when she was struggling at a time in her life when she was struggling to get out of bed. She had money issues, she had job issues, she had relationship with her husband issues. And so every time the alarm went at stupid o'clock, she would lean over, hit the snooze button, get another 9 minutes and 59 seconds, and then hit the snooze button again. And the knock-on effect of that was that she would get out of bed late. There was stress in the household. The kids were late for school. There were no packed lunches. The PE kit wasn't ready. So her having an extra half hour in bed was basically setting her up to fail for the rest of the day. So then she came up with the 5-second rule. So what she realized was that your brain is really, really good at making excuses why you can't do things. So if the alarm goes and you think about it too long, you hit snooze. I can't be bothered. It's too difficult. I've not got the energy. But if you count back when the alarm goes, it's not just about alarms, it's about anything in your life. If you're struggling with something and you want to find your determination, your mojo, she says, count backwards from 5. So you literally, the alarm's gone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. Launch yourself. Just do it. Just do it. And if you do it within that 5 seconds, then you get out of bed like you've launched yourself like a rocket the day, bring it on. Yeah. But it's the same with pretty much anything. Can't be bothered to do it. Count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and do it. Now, it doesn't mean you feel like doing it, but what it will give you is a motivation to actually get yourself moving in the morning. And I think that's really nice. I think that's a really, really smart thing.
And that can be a massive help, Mr. C, because really 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a different way of looking at things, isn't it? It's a reverse, and therefore it sets things in motion. It's a domino effect then.
It is. But Tony, what of course you know this and I know this, and I think every single social worker knows this, is that the human brain is just brilliant at overthinking. All right. So we'll take something, we'll start worrying about it, we'll overthink it. And by the time you've overthought it, you won't have done it. You'll have taken no action at all. So it stops you overthinking, because in 5 seconds, I'm just going to do it. I don't feel like going to the gym, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I've got my trainers on. I'm going to the gym. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to apply it to everything. I read the book about 2 weeks ago, and I've used the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 a few times, and I love it. I love it, mate. I love it because it's not academic. It's the simplest thing in the world. And it makes you take action. And that's really what we're talking about here, is action. Because you can think as positive as you like, but actually taking action becomes the life changer.
There's no doubt about that, Andy. So we really, really appreciate that. I mean, you've answered the question beautifully in a way that just introduces another little technique. So guys, if you're listening at home to the Dr. Cope here today, can you add 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go to this 4-minute rule that we've introduced earlier in this session? I hope so. Give you some homework in connection with that. Write to me, tell me how you're getting on with it. And in the meantime, can we just wish and thank Dr. Happiness all the
Mate, I would like to thank you for inviting me to talk to these wonderful people. Can you just give? I know you're going to promote the books. Good lad.
Yeah, that your latest book, How to Build Wellbeing, along with Sanju and Jim Poliopoulos. Recommend it, everybody. Dr. Happy, Dr. Coe, Andy, thanks ever so much. All the
Thanks,
best.
Tone.
So wasn't that incredible, meeting and listening to Dr. Andy Coe? Hope you found that enlightening. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Isn't it true that business really is unusual? So can we make it our business to be unusual, to be our best selves? Can we do that? So I want to finish off with just giving you something to think about, reflect on, maybe even write to me, share with me what you think about this. How about this? What lessons have we learned from the lockdown period? So it's been going on quite a while now, various restrictions in different parts of the country. What have you learned from lockdown, and how can you shape the new normal? Do you remember Andy spoke about what we can control, what we can't control, and what we can be, our best being? So can we shape the new normal? Can we do that ourselves? That would be incredible to hear from you. Please send me your responses if you wish to tony@artofbrilliance.co.uk. And if I love what you say, I'll send you one of these. Beautiful happy t-shirt. You choose the colour and the size. We'll send it to you. Really look forward to seeing you on the next session. Thank you so much for listening. And the next session is mental wealth. Take care.